Friday, August 6th, 2021. It's 6 p.m. top of the hour. Time for the news in the English language. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining me live from Yaoundé. Let's begin with our bullet points. Cameroon has joined the international community this Friday, August 6th, to commemorate the International Beer Day. Some Cameroonians say beer is their source of joy and a uniting factor. The regional council presidents have been urged to extend development to the indigenous people. This was the outcome of a meeting held at the Ministry of Social Affairs this Friday, August 6th. In sport, La Liga has lost one of the world's best striker, Lionel Messi. This comes after Barcelona failed to agree with his financial terms. These and more will be yours in this edition of the newscast. Let us begin this edition of the news to say that fallen police officers ambushed by separatist fighters in Balisop division on July 18th, 2021 have been paid last honor at the National Advanced Police College in the nation's capital city, Yaoundé. The military honor was cheered by the Director General for National Security, Martin Bangangele. The following report says the 5 fallen police will be laid to rest over the weekend in their various villages of origin. Let's take a listen. The ceremony to pay homage to yet this other set of soldiers who paid the ultimate sacrifice while defending the national integrity of the country in the crisis-hit Northwest region was cheered by the Delegate General of National Security, Martin Bangangele, at the National Advanced School in Yaoundé. Major Bikolo, Major Mamdi, Major Meng, Major Oba, and Temgo died last July 18th after the Bali public security van hit an improvised explosive device around T Junction, a neighborhood in Bali subdivision, Mezam division of the Northwest region. According to footages that flooded social media, separatist fighters in Balinyonga detonated an improvised explosive device, rendering the police van that was transporting the officers. Thereafter, the separatists fired shots on the van, killing 5 policemen before taking their helmets, identity cards, and other gadgets. On August 3, the families of the fallen soldiers were received in audience at the National Delegation of Public Security in Yaoundé by Martin Bangangele, who extended the condolence of the head of state, Paul Biya. This is just one of the numerous attacks perpetrated by separatist fighters in the troubled English-speaking regions of Northwest and Southwest, which has continued to claim the lives of civilians and the elements of the defense and security forces. The soldiers aged between 27 and 31 will be laid to rest in their various lands over the weekend. The Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, and Grand Chancellor of Academic Order, Professor Jacques Famindongo, has this Friday, August 6th, chaired a meeting with CEMAC Ministers of Higher Education and Scientific Research and Training via video conferencing at the University of Yaoundé 1. The conference was aimed at strategizing and bringing suggestions to better the higher education sector in the CEMAC sub-region. Details in this report. The Council of Ministers of Higher Education, Scientific Research and Training of the Member States of the Central African Economic and Monetary Community, CEMAC, via video conference, was aimed at capitalization of credit within universities of CEMAC member states. During the conference at the Information Technologies IT Center at the University of Yaoundé 1, chaired by the President of the Council, Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education and Grand Chancellor of Academic Orders, Professor Jacques Famindongo, members of the CEMAC Council of Ministers from the 6 member states, Central African Republic, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea brought out proposals that will help boost the higher sector of education and interconnectedness of these universities. Aware of the speedy growth in technology, these participants brought out pertinent issues in relation to scientific research. The close to 3 hours video conference ended with the measured resolutions for onward transmission to the heads of state and government of the CEMAC member state headed by President Paul Biya for validation. The president of the CEMAC Council of Ministers for Higher Education and Scientific Research, Jacques Famindongo, challenged the members of the council to upgrade the higher sector of education in order to meet international standards. The delegation was shown the new IT center of the university that is aimed at interconnecting all state universities in Cameroon. The video conference chaired by the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education and Grand Chancellor of Academic Order, Professor Jacques Famindongo, was also an opportunity to expose the IT center. After the video conference at the University of Yaoundé 1, our newsroom up with the director of the IT center, Atsa Etundi Roger, in a bid to know the importance of the center. Let's take a listen to him speaking on the microphone of Samuel Bonis.
Education has received some funding, and actually this funding has been put so that we can install the electricity transformer in all the universities. Definitely, actually, we have the work is ongoing in the university, Interstate University of Samalima. The work is more or less complete in Yaoundé 1, Yaoundé 2, and University of Ngaoundéré. Now, we are asking those who are in charge to do this work in Boya, Bamenda, Chang, and Marwa to hurry up. If not, maybe the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education will be obliged to cancel the agreement and sign another agreement with other partners who can do it very easily. Because we want, for the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, all this system should be functional by October 2021. So actually, for all the state universities, they have the bandwidth of 263 megabytes. But what the government has decided to do is to increase it, to move from 263 megabytes to 9,334 megabytes. Provide him a computer so that he can better follow classes. Because all the classes, the students will be able to follow classes at home. They are not obliged to come to the campus. Because actually, you have too many students, and the amphitheater cannot be improved. We cannot change the capacity. We cannot continue building amphitheater because we have too many students coming to university. So,
as you heard in one of our late stories, in prelude to the 27th International Day of the Indigenous People, a meeting was held this Friday, August 6th, at the Ministry of Social Affairs, chaired by the Minister Pauline Irene Ngene. Discussions were centered on the various ways in which the regional council presidents can carry development to the indigenous people. At the end of the meeting, some conclusions were made on the importance of taking account the specific needs of indigenous people. Ruth Fonyong has more in this report.
Do not keep anyone aside. Indigenous people and the call for a new social contract is the theme retained for the 27th edition of the International Indigenous Population, with a view to sensitize the national community on the concerns of this part of the population and demonstrate the will of the public authorities to guarantee the protection and promotion of their rights. That is, the Baka, Bakola, Bagyelis, Benza, and the Mbororos. The discussion meeting, chaired by the Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irene Ngene, was centered on the first steps of decentralization, for example, communities and the process of development, which loiters around the effectiveness of the ongoing development process of regional development plans by each regional council.
The problem, the goal of this consultation is really to integrate the specific needs of indigenous people in the regional development plan. So since these plans are being elaborated now, I think it's the time for us to integrate those specific needs. So we are satisfied for the consultation we had.
Each National Council President presented an expose. At the end of the presentation, some conclusions were drawn on the specific objectives, which were sensitizing the presidents of the regional councils of Cameroon as well as their main collaborators on the importance of taking important account the specific needs of indigenous people, sensitize the decentralized local authorities on their role of public assistance to the needy in the context of decentralization, and promote the strengthening of citizenship education for indigenous youth in the councils housing indigenous people.
Prevention and road safety were the elements discussed during the 6th United Nations Road Safety Week. During the ceremony, some laureates were awarded winners of the Street for Life project. The aim of this meeting was to discuss on ways to reduce the numerous road accidents that have been taking many lives in the country. The meeting was attended by the Ministries of Transport and that of Secondary Education, as Geraldine Nasser tells us in the following report.
Road safety in Cameroon remains a major problem in the country, as different axes have experienced so many accidents in recent times, which occur due to a lot of controversy deriving from several indelicacies such as lack of rest for the drivers, overspeeding, lack of vigilance on roads, among others. It is due to this that prevention and road safety were the elements that was discussed within the framework of awareness initiated during the occasion of the 6th United Nations Week for Road Safety.
Cameroon have lost 40 of its vibrant citizens owing to one small to road accidents, and it is not just a coincidence that on this day that the non-governmental organization has bring together champions of road safety. This particular day, the Minister of Transport has given firm instruction on measures that have to be respected.
Beyond this purpose was the concept of the awards to winners of the Street for Life project. Several categories were rewarded for the first edition, which was satisfying for these laureates.
So today, though we mourn, but we are re-galvanized because this ceremony has brought together the civil society, lawmakers, international stakeholders, international structures that finance road safety to be remobilized, and for us to double the efforts against this crusade to fight against road accidents on our highways.
The occasion, however, saw the presence of the government through two ministries, the Ministry of Secondary Education and the Ministry of Transport, who marked their presence with promising contributions for the country.
We want to tell to Cameroon that they must apply the regulation on speed. The speed we use is too high, and secondly, we must forbidden to make a trip in the night.
Appointment for the second edition, drivers are therefore called upon to be cautioned, drive at 30 km maximum on the roads, and to be more responsible.
Cameroon will join the rest of the African community on August 10, 2021 to celebrate the first Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Week. To properly prepare for this, a meeting has been organized by the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, Georges Elanga Obam, during which he highlighted the importance of this day and called on local authorities to be duty conscious. And Omeko has more in the following report.
As part of government's efforts to promote a decentralization and local developments in the country, as adopted by the African Charter Values on Decentralization, the ceremony to take place on August 10 is a moment to recall the duties of local authorities.
The duty of regional and local authorities shall be to promote the economic, social, health, educational, cultural and sports development of the said authorities. In this theme sounds like an appeal to regional and local authorities to assume their role in the fields of arts, culture and heritage. The General Code of Regional and Local Authorities affords interesting perspectives that they should seize to preserve their identity, develop tourism, and foster the economic development of communities.
On the verge of the organization of the African Cup of Nations 2021 in the country, everyone has the responsibility to give Cameroon a befitting image in all aspects to please foreigners.
Councils and regions stand to benefit by playing a more significant role, whose spin-offs will undoubtedly be there becoming more attractive. In Cameroon, we thrive on the advantage that artistic, cultural and heritage issues are already mainstreamed in local development. They are concerns at the heart of the special status granted to the Northwest and the Southwest regions, whose houses of chiefs have been particularly empowered to give their opinion on the status of traditional chiefdoms, the management and preservation of historical sites, monuments and vestige, the organization of cultural and traditional events, and the collection and translation of elements of oral tradition.
A press conference in prelude to the celebration to take place on August 10, 2021 has been a moment of reflection as the African Union invites all to celebrate under the theme Leadership for an Essential Service, Building Resilience, Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Production System in Post-COVID-19 Africa, though innovative, integrated and decentralized services.
Still in connection to the press conference organized by the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, Georges Obam, in prelude first registration of Vital Statistics Week, the minister highlighted or reiterated the need for quality services and good leadership at every level. And Omeko once more.
As Cameroon mobilizes to celebrate the first Africans civil registration and vital statistics day with the entire African community, a press conference has been held to highlight the importance of this day. Quality leadership is required at all levels in series of measures adopted by His Excellency President Paul Biya over the last decade.
The revision of legal framework and the creation of a dedicated organ, the National Civil Status Registration Office. The same commitment and determination are expected from the other stakeholders in the National Civil Registration System, especially those on the ground, officers and secretaries of the main and secondary civil status registration centers. In this perspective, the holding of a civil registrar's office, including for council executives, must be accompanied by a permanent immersion in the society for the purpose of awareness raising and effective registration.
There is much assurance for positive changes as the era when civil registrars waiting for citizens in their centers is over.
The new civil registrar must go to the people to preach the good news of registration and organize campaigns for the drawing up of civil status certificates in conjunction with the elite, traditional and religious authorities. This is the prize and the only one that will gradually eliminate the structural deficit of civil status registration. The computerization option will undoubtedly strengthen the robustness of the National Civil Registration System, whose resilience has been demonstrated in the context of the dual health and security crisis through continuation of civil status registration, but especially through actions to reconstitute the civil status certificates of affected or internally displaced persons.
Reforms undertaken by the government to modernize the national civil status registration system will continue with a view to provide citizens with innovative, integrated and decentralized services.
Cameroon has joined the international community this Friday, August 6th, to commemorate the International World Beer Day. Preferred to as a uniting factor by many, some Cameroonians say it is used as a stress relief. Each time they are stressed, they drink bottles of beer to get relief. And Omeko has an in-depth of this story in the following report.
The consumption of beer in Cameroon is very common and a unifying factor, just like football. A moment when beer lovers always want to share a bottle or two with their loved ones, despite the increase in prices of a bottle of beer. Worth noting is the fact that many prefer alcohol as it relieves them from stress.
I drink alcohol because I like alcohol first of all, and it gives me the pleasure to get away the stress, emotional stress, financial stress, educational stress and stuff like that. Like you go to school, you come back, there is no work, and you're struggling to meet ends meet, maybe hustling, call box and stuff like that. You come back home, and then you just need a bottle of beer to get away over the stress and stuff like that.
On the other hand, most youth who consume much quantity of alcohol say joblessness has also contributed to them drinking more than 2 bottles of beers daily.
8 bottles of alcohol, it's good.
As Cameroonians join the international community to celebrate the International World Day of the Beer, August 6, 2021, though a unifying factor, it is important to consume with precaution, as getting drunk due to alcohol can lead to many unfortunate situations and loss of life.
If you're just joining us, you're watching the 6 p.m. newscast on Camdis television in the English language, broadcasting live from Yaoundé. In sport, the Cameroon athletes at the 32nd edition of Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan, has ended up with no athlete mounting the podium for a medal. Emilienne Tiako was ousted this morning by a Mongolian wrestler after defeating her 14-4. Ruth Fonyang has more in this report.
Cameroon's standard bearer and last standing athlete at the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games in Japan, wrestler Emilienne Tiako, was overpowered in her first outing. The 33-year-old athlete lost in the tournament's women's 53 kilograms freestyle range this Thursday, August 5th, 10-0 to Japan's 2-time world champion Mayu Mukaida. The last hopes for the country to grab a bronze medal crumbled after Emilienne Tiako and last standing athlete at the games lost during the final in bronze. The 33-year-old was overpowered by her Mongolian counterpart Bat Oshirin this Friday, August 6th, in the women's 53 kilograms freestyle range wrestling, 14-4 in less than 5 minutes into the fight. Joseph Emilienne had kept almost dying medal hopes alive after she was rescued following the Japanese Mayu Mukaida's qualification to the final of the gold medal in their category. Mukaida had overpowered Emilienne in their first fight, and thanks to her qualification, the Cameroonian bounced back through a rescue system dubbed repassage. Unfortunately, she could concretize this other opportunity to win a medal for the country, as she was overpowered by her Mongolian counterpart. Cameroon, who was represented by 12 athletes from 7 disciplines, thus quit the games 2 days to the end of the competition without grabbing a single medal, just like in 2016 in Rio, Brazil.
Lionel Messi has left La Liga, after which his club Barcelona could not meet up with the financial term of the Argentinian-born striker. This comes after his contract in Barcelona expired in June 2021. The Argentinian-born striker will now have to sign a new contract with a club of his choice. The following report has an in-depth of this story.
Officials of the Catalan club announced on Thursday, August 5th, 2021, that they will not sign a contract extension with the six-fold Golden Boot Lionel Messi because of the financial difficulties that the club is experiencing. The Argentina superstar is therefore obliged to separate from the club that has hosted him for 20 years. Arrived at the end of his contract last June 2021, Lionel Messi left the club that conceived him at the age of 34, now free to sign wherever he wishes. It should be noted that the club ended the 2020-2021 season with only one trophy, namely that of the King's Cup. Despite this poor performance, Barcelona did everything to keep their best striker, but to stay within the financial limits of the financial fair play of the Spanish league, the club found itself obliged to get rid of the once inescapable Lionel Messi, who has become the player who has played the most games with Barcelona, ahead of the 767 club selections game of legend Xavi.
China has rejected the United States' offer of a temporary refuge to people from Hong Kong. This is as a result of the odds between or over a range of foreign policy projects between the United States of America and China. Geraldine Nasser has more in the following report.
China's foreign ministry this Friday attacked a U.S. offer of temporary refuge for people from Hong Kong as a vain attempt to stigmatize the semi-autonomous southern city and China's central government. This statement from the ministry's office in Hong Kong came as after President Joe Biden made the offer in response to Beijing's increasing moves to tighten its control and crush the pro-democracy opposition. Biden had signed a memorandum allowing people from Hong Kong currently residing in the United States to live and work in the country for 18 months in direct response to Hong Kong's sweeping new national security law and other measures that undercut the rights promised when the former British colony was handed back to China in 1997. This claim, however, is due to the fact that China and United States are at odds over a range of foreign policy issues. In Tanzania, route police have detained a number of protesting supporters of arrested opposition leader Freedom Mbowe on Thursday as a terrorism financing and conspiracy case against him was postponed. Mbowe and other officials from the main opposition party, Njadema, were arrested last month ahead of a planned conference to demand constitutional reform. The 59-year-old had been due to appear in court in the financial capital Dar es Salaam this Friday, August 6th. His supporters, however, have been urged to turn up at the court when Mbowe is due to appear in prison. 6 members of a Sudanese paramilitary forces were sentenced to death on Thursday, August 5th by a court in the central city of Al Obeid in the northern Kordofan region for the death of 6 protesters in 2019, including 4 school children. The death of the protesters and children had raised a wave of anger in Sudan. Authorities arrested 9 paramilitary in August 2019 from the powerful Rapid Support Forces in connection to the violence. On Thursday, 6 of the defendants were sentenced to death and 2 others were acquitted. The 9th victim, under the age of 18, was referred to a juvenile court for trial.
That international roundup report takes us to the end of this edition of the news. But before we part companies, we remind you of our major stories. Cameroon has joined the international community this Friday, August 6th, to commemorate the International Beer Day. Some Cameroonians say beer is their source of joy and a uniting factor. The regional council presidents have been urged to extend development to the indigenous people. This was the outcome of a meeting held at the Ministry of Social Affairs this Friday, August 6th. In sport, La Liga has lost one of the world's best striker, Lionel Messi. This comes after Barcelona failed to agree with his financial terms. And it is here that we end this edition of the news in the English language. Meet Claude Mayo at 8 p.m. for the news in the French language. As I take a weekend break to be back on Monday, August 9th, do have a wonderful time in the company of our programs. Happy weekend.